Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep into industrial automation. All those systems that keep factories running and our modern world humming, and we're talking about PLCs. These tiny computers you probably never even heard of, but they're everywhere, ready to have your mind blown.
I think you're right. Most people don't realize just how much they rely on PLCs every single day. And the sources you've provided gives a fascinating glimpse into how these powerful little devices are really changing the way everything works.
One thing that really stood out to me was how PLCs are replacing those old relay systems we used to see in factories. Those massive panels with wires and switches everywhere.
Oh yeah, those old systems were like trying to build a computer out of light switches. A single PLC can replace hundreds of relays, and that cuts down the amount of wiring needed by something like 90% and takes up way less space.
That's incredible. But efficiency isn't the only advantage, right?
Right, PLCs are incredibly flexible. Unlike a hardwired relay system, you can completely change what a PLC does by just tweaking the software. So it's like having a virtual control panel that you can reconfigure on the fly.
So it's not just about turning things on and off, it's about creating intelligent systems that can adapt and respond to changing conditions. Pretty cool. But are all PLCs the same, though?
The sources actually break down PLCs into three main categories. You've got compact PLCs, which are perfect for simple tasks like running a vending machine.
I can see that. Then you have modular PLCs, which are like building blocks. You can snap together different modules to create a system that's perfectly tailored to a specific task.
Exactly. Imagine those controlling a complex production line, adjusting settings, and coordinating robots. And then there's distributed PLCs. They're designed to manage really big systems, things that are spread out over a large area, like a power grid.
Wow. It's amazing how one technology can manage things on such different scales, from a single machine to an entire city's power supply.
And the control doesn't stop there. The sources also highlight how PLCs can feed information into even larger systems like SCADA, which stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, and MES, which is Manufacturing Execution System. It's like layers of control, each one building on the one below it.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the bigger picture here, but what about the eyes and ears of the system? The sources mentions something called remote peripherals. What are those?
You can think of the PLC as the brain making decisions, but it needs information from the real world to work with, and that's where the peripherals come in. They're essentially sensors and actuators located out in the field.
So they're like the PLC's scouts gathering information from the front lines and sending it back to headquarters for analysis.
Exactly. Peripherals extend the PLC's reach, allowing it to control and monitor things in remote or hazardous locations without needing a full-blown PLC at every single point.
Makes sense, but the peripherals aren't calling the shots, are they?
No, they depend on the PLC for instructions. Imagine a security system. The sensors might detect motion, but it's the PLC that decides whether to sound the alarm or turn on the lights.
Okay, that clarifies things. So how do you actually program these PLCs? The sources mention something called TIA portal. What's that all about?
TIA Portal is a software suite created by Siemens for working with PLCs. It lets you configure the hardware, write the software that controls the system, and even monitor everything in real time.
The sources describe it as a multi-document interface. And you can drag and drop components, simulate your program, and even connect to the PLC to see how it's running in real time.
It's about making the programming process as visual and intuitive as possible. You're not just writing lines of code, you're building a virtual representation of your entire system.
That sounds incredibly powerful. And speaking of connections, I noticed the sources dive into these industrial communication protocols called RS-485 and RS-422. Are those like the languages PLCs use to talk to each other?
Exactly. Each protocol has its own strengths and weaknesses. RS-485 is like a party line, allowing multiple devices to share the same communication channel, while RS-422 is more like a dedicated phone line, perfect for direct one-to-one communication.
So if you need to send a message to a whole bunch of devices at once, you'd use RS-485. But if you need a high-speed, reliable connection between two specific points, you'd go with RS-422.
That's a good way to put it. These communication protocols are crucial for ensuring that information flows smoothly throughout the entire system.
The sources also mention Ethernet with and without PoE. Now, I know Ethernet is how we connect computers to the internet, but what's this PoE thing all about?
PoE stands for Power over Ethernet, and it's a brilliant way to simplify installations by sending electrical power right through the Ethernet cable so you don't need separate power lines.
That's like killing two birds with one stone. Imagine setting up a network of security cameras. With PoE, you only need one cable per camera. That's a huge time and money saver.
Exactly. It's becoming increasingly popular in industrial settings as well. Speaking of networks,
Mhm.
the sources describe these different network architectures called topologies: star, bus, ring, and tree. Why all the different shapes? Well, it all comes down to how you connect the devices in the system. A star topology is like a bicycle wheel with a central hub and spokes radiating outward to each device.
And then you have the bus topology, where all the devices are connected to a single cable, like a string of lights. I remember those from my old college dorm room. And a tree topology is like a family tree with a hierarchical structure branching out from a central point. But the one that really stood out to me was the ring
Ah,
topology.
yes, the ring. It's like a circle of data flowing continuously.
That seems super resilient. Like if one connection breaks, the data can just go the other way around the ring. It's like a built-in backup system.
You're exactly right. It's crucial for systems where downtime is simply not an option, like critical infrastructure or essential manufacturing processes.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of how this all fits together. We've got PLCs controlling the systems, peripherals, feeding them information communication protocols, allowing them to talk, and network topologies defining how they're all connected. But with all this going on behind the scenes, how do humans actually interact with these complex systems? The sources keep mentioning HMI or human machine interface. What is that exactly?
HMI is the bridge between the digital world of the PLC and the human operators who manage and monitor the system. It takes all that complex data and presents it in the way that humans can understand.
So instead of staring at a bunch of numbers and code operators, get a clear picture of what's happening in the system, right?
Exactly. The sources mention all sorts of visualization techniques:
Mm.
graphical interfaces with icons and symbols, tables full of data charts that track trends over time, even animations that show processes in action.
So it's about taking all that raw data and turning it into something meaningful and actionable. That makes a lot of sense, but how do PLCs and HMIs actually work together?
It's all about data exchange. The PLC is constantly gathering information from the system sensor, readings machine statuses, process variables, and more, and sending that data to the HMI.
So the HMI is like a live dashboard showing the operator the current state of the system in real time.
Exactly, and it goes both ways. The operator can use the HMI to send commands back to the PLC, things like starting or stopping a machine, adjusting settings, or even triggering specific sequences of events.
So it's a two-way communication channel allowing humans to monitor and control these complex automated systems. But with so much power at their fingertips, surely there are security measures in place, right?
Absolutely. The sources emphasize the importance of security and authorization. HMIs have all sorts of mechanisms to make sure only authorized personnel can access and control the system.
That makes sense. Things like passwords, user levels, and maybe even biometric authentication to ensure that only the right people have access to sensitive controls.
You got it. It's all about ensuring that these systems operate safely, securely, and reliably.
This has been a fascinating journey so far. We've gone from the basics of PLCs to their role in controlling vast, complex systems. What I find really interesting is that even though it's all behind the scenes, it impacts our lives in so many ways.
You're absolutely right, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
Well, luckily for us, this is just part one of our deep dive. Stay tuned for part two, where we'll take a look at how PLCs are being used in unexpected ways and how they might even shape the future of our world. Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we explored the inner workings of PLCs, those tiny computers that power so much of our modern world. But it turns out their impact goes way beyond factory floors.
It's true. PLCs are incredibly versatile, and the sources you shared highlight some really surprising applications that are changing the way we live and work.
Okay, you've got me intrigued. What kind of applications are we talking about here?
Well, let's start with something we all deal with: traffic. Imagine a PLC-based system that manages traffic flow in an entire city.
That sounds ambitious. How would that even work?
It's all about real-time data. The system would gather information from sensors embedded in roadways, traffic cameras, and even GPS data from connected vehicles. And then the PLC would analyze this data and adjust traffic signal timing to optimize flow and reduce congestion.
So rush hour would become less of a rush. That would be a dream come true for commuters everywhere.
And it's not just about making commutes easier. The system could also prioritize emergency vehicles, clearing a path for ambulances and fire trucks to reach their destinations faster.
That could be life-saving. Speaking of life-saving, the sources also mention some really interesting applications in healthcare.
Absolutely. Imagine a PLC-controlled system that manages medication dosages for patients in a hospital.
So instead of relying on manual checks and adjustments, the PLC would ensure that patients receive the precise dosage of medication at the right time, every time.
Exactly. This kind of precision can be crucial for patients with sensitive conditions or those who require complex medication regimens.
It seems like there are endless possibilities. What other areas are being impacted by PLC technology?
Well, the sources also delve into the world of agriculture. Imagine a greenhouse where everything, temperature, humidity, lighting, irrigation, is controlled by a PLC.
It's like creating the perfect growing environment for each plant, maximizing yield and minimizing waste. It's a farmer's dream.
You got it. This system could even adjust conditions based on real-time weather data, ensuring that plants thrive even in unpredictable climates.
It seems like PLCs are popping up everywhere. I'm starting to see how they can make systems smarter and more efficient across so many industries. But I have to ask, with all this talk about automation, what about the role of humans? Are we going to be replaced by robots?
That's a question a lot of people are asking, and it's an important one. The sources acknowledge that automation is changing the nature of work, but they also emphasize that it's not about replacing humans.
So it's more about humans and machines working together, each playing to their strengths.
Exactly. Humans excel at tasks that require creativity, problem-solving, and critical thinking, while machines are great at repetitive tasks, precision, and data analysis.
So instead of replacing human workers, automation frees them up to focus on higher-level tasks that leverage their unique skills.
That's the idea. It's about creating a more efficient and productive workforce, where humans and machines collaborate to achieve better outcomes.
I like that perspective. It's not about humans versus machines. It's about humans and machines working together to create a better future. Now, earlier, we were talking about the different network topologies used to connect PLCs and other devices. The source has mentioned the ring topology, which seems particularly robust.
Yes, the ring topology is a favorite in situations where continuous operation is critical. If one connection fails, the data can simply flow the other way around the ring, like a backup system built right in.
It's like a safety net for your network. I can see why that would be so valuable in industries like manufacturing or energy production.
Exactly. It ensures that even if one part of the system goes down, the rest can keep running without interruption.
Speaking of keeping things running smoothly, the sources also dive into this fascinating topic of human-machine interfaces, or HMIs. Can you remind us what those are all about?
HMIs are the windows through which humans interact with these complex automated systems. They take all that raw data from the PLCs and sensors and translate it into something that humans can understand and act upon.
So instead of staring at a wall of numbers, operators can see clear, intuitive visualizations of what's happening in the system.
Precisely. The sources mention all sorts of visual tools: graphical interfaces, charts, tables, even animations that bring the data to life.
It's about making the invisible visible. I can imagine how that would make it easier to monitor processes, identify trends, and spot potential problems before they escalate.
Exactly. A well-designed HMI can be a powerful tool for improving efficiency, safety, and productivity.
This has been a fascinating exploration of how PLCs are shaping the world around us. It's amazing to see how this technology is being used in so many different ways, from managing traffic flow to optimizing agricultural processes.
And we've only just scratched the surface. The world of PLCs and industrial automation is constantly evolving.
Well, luckily for us, we have one more part of this deep dive to go. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into the future of PLCs and explore some of the emerging trends and challenges that lie ahead. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring the world of PLCs, these workhorse computers driving automation all around us. But like any technology, things are always changing. What's next for PLCs?
Well, that's the exciting part, isn't it? The sources hint at a future where PLCs are not just following instructions, but actually learning and adapting. And the key words here are artificial intelligence and machine learning.
AI in PLCs. Okay, now I'm picturing something straight out of science fiction. What does that even look like?
Well, think of a PLC that can actually analyze all of the data that it's gathering to spot patterns that humans might miss and even make predictions about the future. For example, imagine a PLC that learns the subtle signs of a machine wearing down and alerts technicians before it breaks down and halts production.
So it's not just about efficiency anymore. It's about systems that can actually get smarter over time.
Exactly. It's like having an apprentice who never sleeps and is always learning. The more data these systems process, the better they get at optimizing processes, identifying potential issues, and even suggesting improvements.
It sounds like we're talking about a whole new level of automation. Are we talking about factories that can run themselves?
It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. There are already factories using AI and ML to do things like optimize production schedules, adapt to changing demands, and even predict equipment failures. The forces even use the term self-optimizing factories.
Okay, I'm officially blown away. But with all this automation, what happens to the human workers?
That's a valid concern, and the sources don't shy away from it. The idea isn't to replace humans entirely, but to change the kinds of jobs that they do.
So it's less about robots taking over and more about humans working alongside these increasingly intelligent machines.
Precisely. Humans will still be needed for tasks that require creativity, complex problem solving, and those gut-feeling decisions that AI just can't replicate yet. Think designing the systems, overseeing ethical considerations, and dealing with those unexpected situations.
So it's not humans versus machines. It's about finding the best way for them to complement each other.
That's the key takeaway. It's about creating a more efficient, productive, and hopefully more fulfilling workplace where humans and machines work together.
Now we've talked about all the good things AI can bring to PLCs, but what about the potential downsides? The sources mentioned cybersecurity as a major concern.
Right. As these systems become more connected and reliant on data sharing, they also become more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Imagine a hacker taking control of a critical system like a power grid.
That's a scary thought. What can be done to protect these systems?
Well, it's a multi-pronged approach. We need strong passwords, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and even AI-powered security tools that can learn to recognize and respond to threats in real time.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about creating a culture of security awareness at every level.
Exactly. Training people to recognize phishing attempts, use strong passwords, and report suspicious activity is just as important as having the latest security software.
Another challenge the sources highlight is the need for a workforce that can actually build and manage these increasingly complex systems. Are we talking about a PLC skills gap?
That's right. We need more people who understand PLC programming, networking, cybersecurity, and even AI and ML principles.
So it's not just about training technicians to operate the machines, it's about educating a whole new generation of automation experts.
You nailed it. We need people who can think creatively about how to apply these technologies to solve real-world problems. It's about fostering a passion for innovation and a deep understanding of how these systems impact the world around us.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've gone from understanding how these tiny PLCs work to their potential to reshape entire industries and even our everyday lives. It's a bit mind-blowing, to be honest.
I agree. The world of PLCs and industrial automation is a testament to human ingenuity and our drive to create a more efficient and interconnected world.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that this is just the beginning of the story. We're on the cusp of a new era of automation, one that promises to bring both challenges and incredible opportunities.
The key takeaway: stay curious, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the world of technology. Who knows what amazing things we'll create together?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.